Aloha, everybody. I'm Janet Kira Lessin, and we are here with an episode of Aquarian Media. And I'm getting some feedback. Not sure where it's coming from. So I have with us today Deborah DeFranco, Theresa J. Morris, and Melinda D'Amico. First of all, we're going to say hi to Deborah. And I am getting
Uh,
feedback, so I'm going to mute the people that aren't speaking.
Hello,
Okay, Deborah,
everyone. Uh,
hi. Where are you calling in from today? You
I
move
am
around a
calling
lot.
in from lovely Niagara Falls, New York.
Oh, you're back in Niagara Falls.
I am back in
Wonderful.
Niagara Falls.
So, anyway, we're gonna do we're gonna go. We're running late, so we're gonna just go hi. We'll come back and get your story and feedback later. So let me put on Teresa. Okay, go ahead and speak, Theresa J. Morris. Where are you calling in from today?
Hi, I'm Theresa J. Morris, and I'm calling in from Gulf Breeze, Florida. I'm as south as you can get. I'm living right on the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, near Pensacola.
Excellent.
Gulf Breeze. Thank you.
Go freeze. And Melinda,
Hi,
welcome to the show.
everyone.
Where
My
are you
name is Melinda D'Amico, and I'm calling from Ocean County, New Jersey.
Wonderful. So we had a false start. It was my fault. So we're starting over and running late. My apologies to those who came in earlier and nobody was there. But we're going to redo this story about Theresa J. Morris's near-death experience when she was with her husband as he was dying. So go ahead and tell us that again, and then we'll get comments from the rest of the panel.
Okay, we're Thomas Ray Morris died December 2nd, 2015, and it was very traumatic when anybody passes. He was young, and he was only 56. And when we went to the hospital, it was to do a test for his lung, and they thought he had cancer. But he was already very used to being in care, and he had lost a leg and had diabetes. So he had been off the road roughly 7 years when he passed, staying at home in a wheelchair. But he had this issue, and they called me from the VA to come take him to the hospital, so that he was scheduled to have this test. They go in through your back and pull out a piece of your lung to make sure that you don't have cancer in it, see if it was cancerous. So they called in a doctor we'd never seen before. I guess he was a specialist that did that kind of test, and took him downstairs. They gave him a room in the hospital, took him downstairs to the machine, went through his back. He came back up to the room, and he seemed to be okay for a couple of hours. But then he started feeling bad, and his blood pressure went really high, and they couldn't get it down. So they gave him a couple of bags of water, since he was a diabetic, and still couldn't get it down. So the nurses were really concerned, and so they were calling his doctor. And finally, the nurses decided, well, maybe he needed to go down the ICU. Well, about that time, he said, well, let me have a cup of coffee before he goes, down to critical care, CCU. And at that time, I went out to get his coffee at a service unit. I'm not sure what they call them, but they had, tea and water and a microwave and coffee there. So I was getting his coffee, and then I fell out, and I became like a rag doll. And so I was sitting there uh, for a minute or two, and then finally a nurse came by and asked if I was okay. And I told her I was okay. I remember telling her I was okay, just help me get up. But I was dead weight. And then she looked at my eyes and she said, no, you're not okay. Sit right there. And she called, I guess, another nurse with her cell phone or something. Another nurse came, and by that time I'd already passed out of my body. So she put a light in my eyes and sort of slapped me like that, which I thought was sort of rude, but I didn't feel it because I'd already passed, and I was up over my body. So I was sitting there like a rag doll, and then I heard them called Code Blue. And Code Blue, if you've ever been in a hospital, is when somebody's like passing or gonna pass or needs, the paddles. But they called Code Blue, and about 8 people. And the reason I know 8 people, I was over my body. So the nurse, they picked me up. One big guy behind me, and because I'm 5'11", weigh 240 roughly. So they put me on the gurney and went to the elevator and went down, and I was gone, but I was there. I mean, I was over my head, and so the nurses had talked to me, and then in there they called a priest, and I thought I was talking to her while I was laying in the ER with doctors coming in and the nurse coming in with a computer, and she raised my hand and it fell, and she raised it again and it fell, but she was saying, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is there anybody that we can call for you? You're dying, and we don't know who to call for you." And so I thought I was like, thought I told her my daughter, but I guess she didn't hear me, or I passed. My spirit thinks everybody can hear me, but I guess I'm over my body. I can see me laying there on the gurney, but I'm overhead, which is normal for anybody passing. You still have your eyesight, your memories. So I thought I told her, and she didn't do anything. So everybody left the room, and then doctors came in, and I told him, "Can't you hear me? What's wrong? Why can't you hear me?" And then he said, "Oh, you're back." So I guess he could hear me. And then by that time, there was 2 or 3 men and several women. And so they were really surprised. They came back, not as much as the lady, the priest that was there with me earlier. She was sort of in a shock and awe, never seen that. And then I said, "Well, what's wrong with me?" I said, "This isn't the first time I died." He said, "It isn't." And I said, "No, I've done this several times before. So what's wrong with me?" He says, "Well, I've never seen this happen. Somebody die and come back. This is my first time." And he looked over the doctor talking, and they were like scratching their head and trying to figure out what to do with me. Nobody had stuck an IV in me or nothing, because I was dead. That's another reason I was dead, because the first thing they do when you go into ER is stick an IV in you, so they have a immediate drain and insert in your arm. They got to get fluid. They didn't do that. So it's been a while. I'm 30 minutes or 40 minutes by myself, because I was dead on the gurney. So the doctor said it was a long name. I can't explain it. It was a long name. And he said, but he's never seen anybody come back before. Well, but I told him, I said, well, my husband's dying. I've got to get up. I've got to go be with my husband. He's dying. And they didn't know what to do. They were like, what do we do? One guy, I guess the guy in charge of the whole ER said, well, let her go. That's all we can do. So, I mean, they were in awe. I mean, they were just shaking their heads like, never seen it. But they said, well, can she walk? I said, of course I can walk. And I got off the gurney. I stumbled a minute, but I got my, I got to feeling my feet again. It's not like the first time I ever died. So then I went upstairs, and we had to bring Tom down to die. So CCU, we took him downstairs in the elevator. I walked with him, and we took him down, and they put him in a nice room, and they had a TV overhead from Ohio going to watch him in another place in space, while one little girl manned the computer outside his door. And he went, oh! And so he was hurting, because I guess that hole in his lung, it was filling up with water or something, blood or something. So I told him, I said, well, he had this test done. Maybe, something's going on. And can't you call his doctor? Give him some help, because I felt really bad. But somehow upstairs and downstairs, I think they knew he was dying. Plus, upstairs, they asked him if he had a what is it, Janet? Janet.
Near-death experience? Near-death experience?
Oh, what do you call that when you're not gonna live? You have a
Oh,
a will to
on,
live.
maybe, yeah, DNR, do not resuscitate.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
He had a
DNR.
DNR. That's what they kept saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
makes a big
Okay.
difference when you're dying. If you have a DNR on file, they're not going to help you. So
Right.
this keeps going off at me. So that's why nobody was doing nothing, because he had already told them he had a DNR upstairs, right? So they sent him downstairs with high blood pressure, and I guess gonna let him die. So I went out and found the doctor leaving about 6 or 6:30 because I looked at my watch. He was walking out the door, and I called him somehow, as God would have it. And I said, "Hey, my husband's trying to die. Would you come see about him?" So that was his doctor. And I won't mention any names because it was a very strange account. So he went in and I said, "Hey, what's the matter, Tom? And are you trying to die on us?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm dying." And he said, "Well, don't. We don't want you to. You got a lot to live for. You're a young man, and we can get this licked and all that." And he said, "Well, I'm going to go on home," which he did. And he let, well, I won't place any blame on anybody because Tom wanted to die. So he went on, and I called his sisters. I said, "Well, your brother's want to die. He had a test done, but he's not faring well after the test. And, he has a DNR, so y'all may want to come on up here." And so Faye said, "Yeah, this is it then." I said, "Yeah, it's just, well, you want me to call the rest of the family?" I said, "I believe him. I think this time," because he told me before he came in, Faye, he wanted to die. And he was tired. He was tired of living with one leg. And he was a little old skinny thing, in an electric wheelchair as a veteran. And, VA had been real good to him, helping him. But anyway, she said, "Okay, well, I'll call the family." So she called Shirley and Debbie, and they came up with a couple of their kids. So the family was there about 9:30 or so. And then this doctor came in. I didn't recognize, a really tall, from Africa or another country, because he had an accent. He was 6'6" or so, really tall. I said, "Oh, you're the one that punched the hole in his lung, right?" So I guess he was the guy on duty that did it. So he had to finish taking care of him. So he said, "We've got one more procedure we can do, but it's very dangerous. It's 50-50 if he'll live." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Well, we'll go in through his right leg and go up into his heart and give him a stimulant, something like that." And I said, "What do you think, Tom?" And he said, "Well, I guess," because he didn't really want to live, but for some reason he just let him. But by that time, they did the operation. But the guy told me afterwards, they put me out in the hallway. I had to go wait out in the hall. And when I came back in, he had a deep cut on his right leg, between your leg and your belly, your tummy. And that's where they go in for an artery. And he said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. He's not going to make it. We waited too late to do this. He's in too bad a shape." In other words, he was going. So, and he sort of said that he walked outside to tell me that. And that's when the nurses started, like coding on him and saying, "Oh, he can't breathe. He can't breathe." And they all went panicky. And they were panicking. There's about 2 or 3 more came in. And so they were like, once it was like going, he said, "Yeah, go get the whatever that is that you put down your throat." And then the other nurse that was with him upstairs came down and said, "No, he doesn't want that. Remember, you can't give him. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to live like that. Resuscitate, whatever that is." And so another
Yeah.
nurse ran and got something to put over his mouth with oxygen like that. So he could at least get oxygen like that. And he did that, and he
Right.
set up like straight up. And then he looked up at the corner and he smiled. And I think he looked, and we think Faye says he saw his mother. Now, well, that's speculation, how you see people on the other side, but he smiled and he sat back. And then he went and withdrew, and he took his little hands I'll never forget that because it was like a little baby. And he was doing like this, and he was sucking on his hand, like that. And if you've ever seen babies, they do that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I'd had 4 babies. So I knew what, of course, they're in the 50s now, but I knew what, I knew he had gone back to some baby stage. And I said, I bet he's going to wind up over at the nursery again. And about that time, he held my hand and he leaned back and got real comfortable and closed his eyes, but his heart was still beating. So he just leaned back, and I guess he was passing because the doctor let me hold his hand till his heart stopped, and they declared a certain time he died, which I don't remember. But then I saw a part of him go up and a part of him go out the window, and another part of him, but he looked like he was real skinny, had already shaved his hair off, and with his hands up like that, but he looked like a little gray alien. He just did, but he didn't have his eyes open, but he just laid there and he looked so alien to me. It was almost like I didn't know him anymore. It didn't look like my Tom at all. And so that's when, they declared, and then they told me I could clean him up. So I did. I sat there with him and, wiped his body down and, cried a little bit and talked to him on camera because they were watching from Ohio, I guess. Or I don't know if they had it on or not, tell you the truth. But anyway, I just talked to him and he passed, but I don't know how everybody dies or what I look like when I die. But I have died several times and come back to talk about it. So I guess that's part of the journey for some people is to pass over or either to be with somebody when they pass over. So it's a blessing. It doesn't feel like a blessing when you're going through it. You feel terrible. You feel terrible for everybody around you. I could feel all the nurses, the doctor. I could feel all the panic and the energy. But mostly I could feel him slipping away. And my focus was right on him, just on him. I was trying to will him to stay, even though I knew he needed to go. But then I had to tell myself, no, don't do that. Because people, if they feel you, they'll stay on, But he wanted to go, so I let him go too. That's how I saw him die. And then same thing dying. But Janet, I told you about that. I think we have a second part of us that bonds like a soulmate.
Right.
Even though you can't
Right.
see it, it's energy, and it goes right into your gut through your navel. And I've heard that before in our metaphysical called the silver cord, but mine was attached to him and it snapped and it hurt like the dickens, and I could feel it, and my gut wrenched. I was gut wrenched. So I believe that people can do that. And then I had heard how another lady in our group had her husband passed. We kept thinking, well, she's back at the hospital again, but we were expecting him to die. We weren't expecting her to die, but he died, and within that night or two, she died too. So I believe that people can be bonded like that. All right, I'll shut up now.
Okay, thank you so much, Theresa. Okay, Deborah, feedback, comments, questions. Oh, wait, I think you're on mute. Hold on.
All right, sorry, Theresa, you
That's
made the comment that you had died previously. Were those experiences the same as what happened to you in the hospital, or were they different?
Different.
In what way?
Everyone's different. When I was a little girl, I saw angels come over me and talk to me and tell me I wasn't going to die. I had hepatitis, and they'd already sent for the dialysis machine. I was yellow, and I was defecating white. Nothing was working. My liver was totally
We
shut
don't want
down.
to go through the whole thing right now because we're going to do that later. So this is a preview.
All right.
But just okay. And then you had another one where what was different?
Yeah,
What was different?
then when I died, when I had Gigi, I had 4 girls. And when I died, I had placenta previa. And when I died with her, I did a whole left my body, went out over I went out when I was a little girl, but I stayed in the room. So that one's different. And I talked to angels that came to visit me, like little ETs. They didn't have wings. When I died at 21, nobody came for me. I left the building, and this time I went through the building, up through space in a capsule, and went traveling through the cosmos before I saw gold personages that, like, to me,
The
they were at the gate of
feedback is,
God.
hold on, Theresa, the feedback is really bad. It stopped there for a second.
Turn down your
And then-
volume.
That must be yeah, I think it's Melinda's husband's TV.
Well, I put her on mute. Okay, anyway, we do have a feedback problem.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
when-
stopped.
Okay, so let's. Do you have any questions or feedback, Deborah?
No,
Sorry.
that was it. I was just curious if there was differences or similarities to the experiences. Like I said, I've never had any experience like that or had anybody close to me that's happened.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna go
well,
to
there's a lot of
Melinda.
okay, Melinda.
Melinda, hold on. Are you? Yeah.
Okay. What Theresa, you've had quite a few experiences, near-death experiences. I've never experienced, I can't say in this body of the shell that I am in right now that I have experienced it. I don't recall any. Could I have experienced it? Yes, and I don't, because things happen and we just don't remember it. But how does it impact your life, the near-death experiences?
When I was a little girl, I felt different, and I always was. And some girls picked some flowers after I got to go back to school and blamed me. And I knew I didn't do it, but I had to go around to all the rooms and say I did it. But I knew I didn't do it. But that's what the teacher told me I had to do. So I learned a lot about humility and trying to be right, but even if you're wrong, our lessons on earth, a lot of lessons. And then when I died with Gigi, I changed again. This time I was ready to raise my children. I came back to raise my children. At least that's who I told the person over me, which I would call God, Godmother, Jesus, all those people up there. But with Gigi, it felt so different that I was amazed. And Gigi came out like me. She knew she was from another place in space. She was sit here. She talked about being a star baby. She talked about stars and the cosmos. She wrote a book, Intrinsic Realities. I started wanting to do more with my life. And so my children, when they got in the Gigi was 7 and Angie had just graduated high school, and I went to back in the military again after being a corpsman in 75, 76. And I needed to do more with my life. And then I went over to Hawaii. I started the Ascension Center and Psychic Network to help people learn what I learned on the other side, or when I was traveling having Gigi, because I knew I had psychic powers from the time I was in the 2nd grade, and I used them as a teenager. And then I really practiced. So it gave me psychic powers that I needed to learn, but there was nobody to teach me because my mama didn't believe in any of that. She was very rational. She was a Democrat, but she was a rational Democrat. And my dad was a Republican, but he was more spiritual in the Mormon church. So I was sort of in between, and I wanted to know stuff. So I got involved in reading books like crazy. And I went to I would find these occult bookstores and read. That's the only place I could find out what was going on. Okay.
Theresa, I have a question because I want to keep this moving because we're trying to get through some material here. One question: did they use the paddles on you?
When Gigi died, yeah.
No, when you were dead with Tom.
No, I
Recently,
was
in
dead.
2015.
No, they didn't even try. They didn't even bring the paddles in.
They didn't even put the paddles
I
on
was
you with
dead.
code blue. Did anybody start thumping on your chest
I
and
think-
pushing on your chest? Okay, that's weird. Okay,
I
so
thought
we're
it
going
was
to
because I was
continue.
dead so long. Why would they leave me 30 minutes to an hour and not do that? I think it was
No,
my
no,
age.
I'm saying when you were first on the ground.
They didn't even know who
Usually
I was or nothing.
I know, but when you were first on the ground, when they called code blue, you were still up above. You were still right outside his door. Normally they come
Well, I don't
rushing
remember
with
if they did.
they try to retrieve you. I just wondered if you remember. That's okay.
If they did,
Okay,
I wasn't there when they did it. So
Yeah,
I may
you
have
weren't
been
there.
back in my body and out of my brain, but my spirit, in other words, if that's true and they did it, then that's what separated me from my body and my spirit, because I have no memory of them doing that if they did, but I
Okay.
really don't know.
Okay, so we're going to try to get through some of this slideshow. We're
Okay.
probably going to pick this up next week because it's going really long, but that's okay. It's good information. So basically, if you want to take turns, maybe reading through this stuff a little bit and commenting on it. So we're talking about near-death experiences, and a lot of people have that sense of detachment from the body, and they levitate out of the body. They feel serene, security, warmth. They feel like they have dissolved into nothingness, and there's a presence of light. Did you see a light in your experience, Theresa?
The light was a capsule. It encases you when you go straight up out of your head and through everything, because you're just energy like a lightning bolt. So you just speed up, and then after you leave the atmosphere and get out of the oxygen bubble, and and you're out there passing stars, shoom shoom shoom. They're just going by really fast, and you feel like you're in something, but not your body, but you feel like you're encapsulated, and you go up and you go through boom, boom. You're going through different levels, and then those must be dimensions. And then you reach a certain point, and a gold light opened up for me.
Okay, so you did see the light. So your experiences were positive. So Deborah, do you want to comment on this slide? You can paraphrase it instead of reading it, but this is about negative experiences.
Yeah.
Oh,
The sensations that you experience. I actually had a friend that passed away, and I was working with a psychic named Josh Lewis to contact him. And he was someone who hadn't led the most positive life. There was a lot of negative things that happened to him when he was young. But, when he got older, he changed, and he was a really good guy and completely different from what he was when he was young. And he died in a freak accident. And I remember one time when contacting him, when Josh was talking to him, his voice, he was a rapper and had a very distinctive voice. And I remember it coming through the device going, "I'm here staring into the darkness." And one of my friends who was close to him kept saying he was here, and she could feel him hug her. And I suspect he hadn't passed, and that he was in blackness, where they say that there's theories that people experience or go through, right? When they have a negative death experience versus a positive death experience. And I suspect that's where he was before he finally did move on.
Good. Okay. Melinda.
I think I would
next
agree.
slide?
That makes sense. I have a experience, but it's not near death. It was about a situation of someone that I didn't know, and I'm crying about the people, and I don't know them in the dream. And but then later, after the fact, everything that happened, said and done, I was connected. So there is some correlation, and things do add up, and they do make sense. It just did, and sometimes it doesn't at first, but later on through the process and all the things that happen, you do see the connection and the correlation.
Okay. Theresa, do you have any comments on this slide or anything to add?
Well, you're looking at how science and religion. I do study neuroscience because of everything I've been through. So I came back with a high degree of intelligence according to tests I took. People asked me if I wanted to take them because I was a straight A student and they couldn't figure it out because I had to get a GED because I had babies and during the Vietnam War. So I took them. Said, there's no way you could know this. And they said, do you read? I was like, no. They said, you only went to the 10th grade? I said, yeah. And they said, there's no possible way. But they gave me all these tests and called some other people. And so I believe that when you're out there among the stars like the Akashic field, I told them this was what I thought. I said, well, I think I came back more understanding of life than I went out with. So that's the only way I could explain it. There was, but I'm just one person. And so nobody cared. I went on with my life. But the multisensory with neuroscience, some think we just go when I'm very curious about, because even recently, I had my eyelids cut off because they were so baggy hanging down and I couldn't see to drive. So even then they put me under and I go to a black place and don't remember anything. And then I come back. So I've been studying neuroscience because we can still be alive and not remember anything and be put under, but that is not the same as leaving your body at all. So to transcend and to ascend, that is not going into that. That's a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th sense. That is not when you, this neuroscience trying to say that we're crazy or we don't know what we're talking about, or it's our religious belief. And I do know when I got put under to go to sleep, which I've done many times, I spent a lot of time in my life in the hospital due to having kids or surgery, broken nose, I broke my face. I know what it's like to go black. And people that have been under, like Michael Jackson, you go black. You don't go travel. Now, when you dream, you go dream, and then you can go into a lucid dream and open the door to another place. All right, I'll stop.
No, I just wanted to add, you mentioned you evoked Michael Jackson. I had propofol, which was his drug of choice, when I had surgery on my finger. Where's the camera?
Yeah.
Area. I had my finger.
Her finger doesn't work.
I got bit by a cat, and she tore the nerves apart and the tendons, and so I almost died. I was 10 days in the hospital. Anyway, to kind of correct this, so I can type, but I can't do much else here. I can type, but I can't carry with that anymore. So anyway, they gave me propofol, and I don't know why Michael Jackson liked it. I mean, that was amazing.
What was it like?
Yeah, why?
I felt like I could run a marathon. I had so much energy. It was like,
yeah.
I hardly contain myself. No wonder he could dance like that. Because I thought I was going to jump off the table and I was going to start moonwalking, right? And then, and I remembered things. So maybe they didn't get, but they said usually you don't remember anything. But I had kind of. I merged to 2 episodes. There was a nurse holding my hand, And so I went back to the time I had no. It's interesting. You had no surgery. I had no surgery because I had polyps in my nostril. The bone here had a large, and it was full of cartilage. So anyway, when I was 24, I had no surgery, and somehow I said, and there was a lady that held my hand in the original no surgery, and they gave me liquid cocaine and up
Wow.
my nose and
Wait, what? They gave you what?
Is that legal?
Yeah,
up
what?
liquid cocaine up my nose, and
Oh, wow.
I forget what they gave me intravenous. So I was high as a kite because you had to be awake with the nose surgery that I had. So, but I had transposed it, and I woke up after the propofol, and I said, "Well, thank you for holding my hand the whole time." And then I realized, oh, I was back in time. I was back with the original surgery, but I realized where I was. But for about a month after that propofol surgery, it makes holes in your brain, and I would just go, I don't remember. I don't remember. So I don't know how Michael remembered all that stuff because it does. It literally, and then I felt my brain rewiring itself, and so it came back. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing it, even though I know why he did it because he felt great. So, well, thank you. Let me try to get a couple more slides in before. Um, Melinda, do you want to read this one and comment on this?
In the
Yeah,
United
Melinda.
States, an estimated 9 million people have reported an NDE, according to a 2011 study in Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences. Most of these near-death experiences result from serious injury that affects the body.
Right.
I would agree with that because I have had some traumatic experiences in my life, accidents, and I think things sometimes don't happen to you right then and there, like you just got hit by a car, boom, whatever. It's a cycle, a process, a phase, and things do happen. And I do think we're affected differently because each person is different. We're no one is the same, even a twin, identical twin. And I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. I had an episode where I got thrown off a balcony by an angry person, and I didn't want to experience hitting the ground and dying, so I left my body like you do in an NDE, and then so I was thinking about that because I'm writing my book, and I would go, what actually happened there? Did I die? Because time um, works differently when you're out of your body, when you're dead, than when you're in a physical body. So I could have died then, and then I came back. So that fortunately, my father caught me when I was being my mother threw me over a balcony. My mother was undiagnosed schizophrenic and probably bipolar, and she was on all kinds of medicines for what was going on with her. So she got angry at my brother and sister because they were excited about Peter Pan. They watched Peter Pan in 1959. I know the date of this because I know what was going on. We were all excited about watching Peter Pan, and we're going, we can fly. And my mother came up in the room and said, now you got to be quiet, go to bed. And there was no way. Everybody's full of adrenaline. So, and this is so abusive. My mother used to pick up my brother and sister and hold them by their feet, and they bounce their head off the ground. And that didn't get them, to stop from making all the noise. So she said, I'm going to throw your baby sister over the balcony. And that's what she did. And my dad caught me. But that's a good question. Like you were talking about, Melinda, there's these traumatic things that happen. I mean, do you leave your body? Are you in the dead zone? Are you in the astral projection? What is going on? But you blank out. You don't want to experience it. I know I didn't want to experience it, and then I came back. Go ahead, Melinda.
I recall something. I can't put it completely together one way all together, but as best as I can, I could remember I was very, very young and I was like floating. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like they say levitating or whatever. And that I just remember that like vividly. And I asked my mother about it once, and she goes, you know, I can't tell you all of it, but it's something I think I remember a little bit. I have to think about it and ask me again.
Mhm.
So, you know, sometimes you experience or you saw someone experiencing it, and you either, I guess, experience it yourself. So I believe in all that. You know, you internalize a certain way, and once you know it, I mean, I can never throw that one thing away. It's just I don't know the whole dynamics of it, but one day I guess it will come to fruition of what happened, who, what, where, and all the variables explained, and you know, I'll know the whole story because hopefully you learn and live and learn the lesson and understand it. You know.
Thank you.
Well, I've
Deborah,
learned
do you
if
want to
you
comment?
do
Oh,
things.
go ahead.
I was just going to
Yeah,
say,
Theresa,
I've
you
learned.
can say her figure when you're going to comment, so I
Sorry,
know that
I stepped away for a second. I missed that last part.
it's okay.
Will you
Oh,
fix your
continue.
picture back on?
Which one?
Deborah put her picture back on. I can't see her.
I
Oh,
can't see
Deborah.
her.
Oh, Deborah. Back on. Do you
Yeah,
want
I
to
just
comment
have
on
the.
this slide that we have up here?
Oh, the one about so this study, I don't know if I missed something in this description of this slide. You know, Albert Heim, I guess, reported on the observations of what people are experiencing when they were like about to die, falling from scaffoldings or
Mm-hmm.
war soldiers, but they hadn't died, right? So
Right.
what did they do with this data?
I didn't click through to Albert Heim, but if you Google him, we might get more information. I had to put this together in like a day or day and a half, so I
Yeah,
didn't have time.
because I'd be curious to know if they started formally observing this stuff, what did they do with this data? And did they continually maintain this data? Because
Can you put your
obviously,
Can you put your camera back on? We'd like to see you.
sorry,
There
yeah,
you go. Okay.
yeah. So I'd be curious to know where is the data and what does the data say now? Because they've been collecting it obviously for over 100 years. And
Right.
you know, there was assumptions made, I'm sure, in the late 1800s, early 1900s about this. So here we are 100 years later. How do those assumptions hold up?
So,
Right?
and that takes a team researching it. So these are good questions. And if we want to come back and do, we're hoping to do a series on these different topics. And these questions are important. So we can go back and say, here's what I discovered about this. But this was just this is all from Wikipedia. I grabbed it. And I didn't go through the whole Wikipedia because, it's like long. It's like, okay. And there's other research. But I thought we'd start out, and obviously we're not going to get through the whole thing, and have some basic information we can cover. So I think part of what you experience from your NDE might be how you die. You might have I've interviewed people that drowned, and they have a whole different experience than somebody that maybe had an injury.
Right.
TJ just passed out, so she was kind of a volunteer. She was exiting out of stress, right? So I wonder if there is a correlation, like if you get knocked unconscious in a war, it might be like when you take entheogens, set and setting. So if you have a certain thing going on, your set and setting is different, and you have a pleasant death or an accident, or I wonder what people felt like when they got bombed in Hiroshima. Wish we could interview them. What was that like? You're in your body one moment, and then there's a bomb goes off, and you're out of your body. So we
Yeah.
do get some of those things. Some people have trauma. But anyway, that's a wonderful question. Thank you, Deborah. We've lost Theresa. Theresa, if you can hear us, just log back in because we miss you. Okay,
Yeah, because I was
next.
going to say in Teresa's situation, there was no trauma. I mean, there was no physical trauma whatsoever, right? That
Right,
snapping she felt, that was a spiritual or a mental trauma, right? That
right.
maybe triggered the NDE. But, that's kind of an outlier of what they have traditionally seen.
Yeah, that's the first, and Teresa's back. TJ, that's the first I've heard of that. You said when Tom was dying, before we went on air, you were saying when Tom was dying, you felt a snap when he was leaving, like that bond you have between each other snapped. And then, how did you feel when the snapping happened? Tell us again. When you
The
felt that
snap
snap.
happened. I was standing at the end of the bed, asked him if he wanted coffee, and all of a sudden it happened. And I fell on the floor in the room before I ever
Right.
died out in the hallway.
So you felt that snap when he asked for coffee? When did you feel the breaking of your bond between you and
when I looked
Tom?
at him? I looked at him, and I think our eyes caught like a pusha, and he let go, so he could die because I think he let
so
go.
he withdrew. Wow.
He was
Wow.
yeah. Otherwise,
Okay,
I probably could have saved him.
If he hadn't broke the bond, you could have brought him back. Yes. And I had an episode when Sasha was like almost dying. He was in the hospital, and the doctor was trying to come, and he was caught in traffic, and so it was very traumatic. But he never broke that bond. He got mad at me though. He got really mad because of the pain, and I thought he was going to have a heart attack, and his eyes were bugging out of his head because he was in excruciating pain. And then, he does this sometimes. When he's really mad. He started. It's just like when women are giving birth, they start cursing their husband. You did this to me. And so he was like, he lost his mind. He's like, I did all. You called me every name in the book, and I didn't take it personally. I just go, oh my goodness. But when the doctor came in the hospital, he finally made it through the traffic. He was supposed to do this other surgery. You could hear Sasha screaming in the whole emergency room. And he rushed in and he said, I'm taking him. And he saved his life. If it wasn't for Dr. Hamilton, I wouldn't have, Sasha would have died in 2011. So that was, yeah, we all have stories. But thanks for telling us about that bond. But he didn't break with me. So that's right. I knew I could save him. He did not break his bond, even though he was angry at me. He did not break his bond. But I think his anger helped him fight for life. Because he wasn't ready to let go. He's like, I'm not dying. But somebody fixes now because he was in. I think there's a point where you can't take the pain anymore, and you will exit your body. So it's what's it? There's different pain levels. I'm not a nurse, but your sister's. There's chronic, and there's anyway. When it goes over this point of pain, you go, I don't see how I can stay in my body if I have this level of pain for much longer. I'm going to leave. And I had that thought when I got sick with the gallbladder thing. It was so intense. I said, the human body, you can't take that level of pain for long. And I was just howling for about a half hour. I mean, I was literally screaming because I was hoping a neighbor would hear me. And Sasha was trying to tell the emergency people how to get to me. And we live out in the country. It's not good when you live out in the country and they can't drive up to your house, right? So anyway, that's an aside. Okay, let's continue here. Who wants to take this slide? What order we're in?
I think this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about what was in the news this past week. Doctors chalk up what happens to you as you pass as just hallucinations, right? As you're leaving the world or checking out. What if it's more than that? What if it's not just hallucinations, right?
But what are hallucinations? Could you actually
Great
be seeing the other
question.
dimension? So don't dismiss it.
They're not near-death experiences. That's not a near death. A near death, you are in full conscious mode. Mm-hmm. Hallucination is something different. It's foggy brain.
Right, but what they might be calling you talking to your dead mother a hallucination. Like Tom was seeing his dead mother. He might have said, "Hey, Mom," and they would say, "Well, he's just hallucinating." But I think they're
we don't know that he saw her. He didn't say he did. He never said he saw her. He released her mind.
Who did he like that much that he would smile that much in your mind?
Only his mother. I never met her. She was dead.
But he loved her so much he would smile. Well, you're having
Yeah.
a rough time there. Okay. You okay? Yeah. We can't hear you like you do.
Anytime I try to talk lately, since I had COVID, it catches in my throat. Apologize.
Yeah,
That's
I
why we're
bet
getting
so.
these on. We don't know how much time we have, ever.
Yeah, we don't know how long we're going to be.
I don't know how long I've got. I thought I was going with COVID.
Yeah, we both
Uh-oh.
had COVID recently. I think,
I
I don't
said a
know,
bad
Deborah, I
word.
won't say what you have. I know me and Sasha had
Just
that
don't say that
senior.
anymore. They kicked me off.
And, okay, but we were
Bad
sick,
word.
whatever it is.
We were
Okay,
sick.
next
I had
slide.
the test.
We have
Yeah, sorry, I should have
10
that
minutes
up.
left, so you're okay. You're good. You're good. Now here's this slide's cattywampus. See, this is old data, 69. But I remember Elizabeth Cooper Ross. I read her book years ago.
What?
Huh?
I didn't know she
You remember?
published a book.
Yeah, she published a book on death and dying, where what the dying had to teach
I
doctors and
didn't
nurses.
know
I read
that.
that book. She's gone now, so we can't talk to her. But there were people that were pioneering research about these NDEs and what was going on. So
Back then in '69?
yes,
Wow.
well, with the other slide, they started in the late 1800s. So
I missed that book. I never read that, nor did I know it. And I liked her. When I was 16, I watched her on TV, Elizabeth Cooper Ross, right? You did too, didn't you,
well,
Janet?
this isn't the other one that you're thinking about.
Oh,
No, this is a woman from Swiss American psychiatrist, Elizabeth Cooper. Anyway, look her up. She did a lot of phenomenal preliminary research in this field.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to the next slide. The next one was Raymond Moody. And we almost interviewed Raymond a couple of times. He was coming on and then he had to cancel. So I never got to interview Raymond Moody, but I think he's still with us. And then John C. Lilly was living over here in the islands. And a lot of people over here were going to see him, and he passed. So I missed him. But anyway, let's stick with the near-death experiences. So a lot of people see this light tunnel with water, and then there's this what do you call it? Controversy. Some people say don't go to the light because that's really Satan or evil trying to pull you in, and some people say go to the light. Light or no light? Let's go down. Who wants to go first? Light or no light? To go to the light or not?
I hear feedback. I hear feedback from it.
Okay, when you're not speaking, please mute. Deborah, light or no light?
Light. Definitely
Okay.
light. I always go towards the light.
Go towards it. Melinda, do you go to the light or not when you die?
Light.
Are you going to go to the
light.
light?
I prefer the light. Yes, the light. Yes.
And TJ, when you die, you go into the light?
I have no control. I go where I'm taken.
If you have a
Been there,
choice,
done
will
that.
you go to the light or will you run in the other direction?
I'll definitely go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. They say UFOs don't go to the light because they're shining lights. That's not the same. These people beam you up, Scotty, but you have no control. That's not a hallucination. I know the difference between a dream, a lucid dream, and opening up a portal and death and dying. Trust me, I know the difference. So, yeah, but I know what they're saying. That stream of light, yeah, that's different than the lights UFOs show.
Well, how do you know if you're going to the dark? Can they trick you? They say that Satan is tricky. It'll make you think you're going to the light and you're going to the dark. Anyway, there's no way to know. So it's unanimous. We're all going to go to the light when we die. So hopefully it's the right choice. It's 50-50, right? Okay, next slide. Let's see what we have here. So we're going to start wrapping this up. We got 6 minutes left. Let's read this. So how many people here have experienced being out of their bodies? I have, and I know Theresa has. Deborah, you
I
ever
have
gone out
not.
of body?
No.
Melinda, not gone out
I
of
have
body. So
not.
it's really hard to explain to somebody. I've been traveling out of my
50%.
body since I was tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm covering a lot of that in my books. I would go out and fly around all night. I'd go travel down to the underworld and see the beautiful cities there. When I was abducted by aliens, I had some were physical, and some of them were my astral body, and I had that sensation of going out of my body. One time they took me through the window. That was interesting. I'm going to go through the window. They're taking me through the window. Next thing you go through the window is like, wow, can't describe that. I can't tell you what it's like to have your molecules go through the window, but it feels very weird. Okay, so since we're the two that had out of body experiences, how do you describe that to our audience, Theresa? What does that feel like to be out of your body?
Well, you're not in it. It's light. It's you're outside of your body, and it feels like you. It feels like you still. I look down. I mean, I had a body, how do they say it? Ephemeral, ethereal maybe body, and so
Yeah.
the memories you're thinking with your higher self, but you always have this all-seeing memory eye wherever you go. Because you know how people talk about having a headset on in virtual reality, and they see
Mhm.
behind themselves, but I see over myself. My mind's eye is rises up, and so I can look around, I can feel, I can see, and it's just like watching a movie screen, but you're in the movie. But I mean, when I go to other planets and I see things and I experience things, I have a body, and I can feel myself running. I can feel myself flying. I can feel myself when I'm in a battle, with when I've been with a team of people, all women, but driving. I have all the same sensations as you do in your body. The only difference is you don't have a physical meat suit, but you're still
Mhm.
a physical, ethereal person. So you have those memory codes. And I believe we come down here to obtain knowledge and experience and learn emotions and how to be a reality, be a being in a corporeal body, in a human body.
Corporeal.
I believe that's
Yeah,
corporeal. Both of them.
I
Whiz.
agree.
My spirit self
I agree.
inside my soul meat self. And so I think that our soul has an oversoul way up somewhere, and we send out pieces like fractals, into a spirit, or So it could be like all the spiritual people. You decide to come down and maybe be like in an avatar, and they're trying to prove that now, that this is just a figment of our imaginations while we're here. So, and we have all that virtual reality
Ah,
coming. So who
you're
knows?
making it up
You got to
really good.
do the best you can. Tell
All
me.
right. Well, we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask everybody to do some final words. I'll start here with Deborah. Final words for today's episode. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. Always reach for the light.
Okay. Anything else you want to say? How do you want anybody to contact you? Do you have a website, or do you want to
I
practice?
don't have anything published. I've got everything in the works and about to flip the switches on stores and websites. So once I have all that information, I will publish it. I'm not on
Excellent.
social media on a personal level, only on a professional level. So I'll publish all of that all at the same time.
Thank you. Melinda, final words, feedback, comments, anything you want to
I
promote?
really, I really enjoyed today's discussion. It was really interesting. I would love to hear that experience again. And thank you for having me. And my stuff is in the works as well.
Thank you. Theresa, final words. Anything you want to promote?
Oh, I've had 75 to 100 blogs out there. I've got 75 to 100 social media groups and pages out there, all under some name, Theresa J. Morris, TJ Thurman Morris, TJ Morris. But I got into this years and years ago with my mom. So we were out there promoting our books. But I never really tried to sell them in social media. So I have TJ Morris Publishing and Timely Manner Books if anybody's interested. I've got books out there on UFOs, and I haven't done one on death and dying or Men in Black, but I do have some UFO books out there. So Janet and I are working on something like that. Now I can't, she has the most beautiful books. And if you want to be at our authors club, call me. I've got a lot of friends, but I don't charge them. But we're going to start charging $5 a month to work with them because we offer so much training in metaphysics and computer work in the AI and AGI. But look at these beautiful books she's showing us. I haven't even seen, I haven't really seen any of these this close.
This is up and coming. What I'm doing is a book for each decade because I'm unpacking all kinds of information. So I'm doing research, and so this is I think this is around the early 2000 Betrayal, about 9/11 Celebration. I think was like the 70s. That some of my books I couldn't get the right image up. This one I'm coming out with. Oh no, that's the end of the 40s. I decided to put that. I forget. I think this might be 2010s. I have all these covers. I have this one published, Genesis, and Hero Quest. I just got those published. So I want you to do this with your stuff, TJ. So I have some nice information that we can display. This is so Cold War is it's is I the right time period? Yeah, I was doing it in the 50s. I might have to change that out. Anyway, but as I'm writing the book, I go, oh goodness, that belongs in that time and that belongs. So I'm studying, learning, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I think that might be it. Okay. So
well, they say
if you have
book covers, you've got. I'd buy them for the book covers. How much do they cost, Janet?
Oh, it depends. I have the Kindle, the paperback, and hardback on most of them. Yeah. So I work with a designer, but this is all my This is Janet's imagination. I find this stuff and I go, okay, we're going to.
I want to live there.
Wow. And then Dr. Lessin has done a bunch of Anunnaki books. Let's see, I did a new cover for Dance of the Souls, which I published. This is I'm going to change all that. I don't like all that. But this is
how many
pages? Mother. They're between 300 and 400. I try to cut them off at like 300, 350. I do have some illustrations in there. This one I'm hoping to get out by the end of the year. So my goal is to do one or two every 2 months, do a book. So anyway, I'm having fun. This is what I do with my life. What do you do with yours?
They're beautiful.
But anyway, I hope that
I drive for Uber. I drive for Uber. Money. Wow, that's beautiful. Beyond human. You and your husband. Go back. What is that?
That's Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Oh, that's my husband. This is a few years ago. We did this show, and I love the artwork that this show did for us. So I grabbed that image, and so I have a lot of websites, and I think they're all working. But anyway, so Dr. Lessin will do a few private sessions a week. He really is having fun. He does yoga 3 times a week, and he's enjoying. He's in his 80s. He will be 83, so he gets to do what he wants. And he still
does sessions. Yeah, he does psychic sessions and marital counseling both.
No, he does Anunnaki teaching, and he'll do psychotherapy, counseling, and some people just want to do questions with Dr. Lessin. And
I've done counseling. I've done counseling with Dr. Lessin. He's very good. I like him a lot.
Wow. He's a great person, and I'm Lessin found him. I know you love Tom, and it's really great to, when you're in partnership. Anyway, that was just a little out. Okay, I'm done advertising. So thank you for paying attention. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're at 5 minutes over, so we're going to end this broadcast. We will be back again next week. It's 11 o'clock Hawaii, 12:01 Pacific. What is it?
5 o'clock
What time was
Eastern.
it?
5:40. It's 6:40 for you, right,
No,
Melinda?
what time did we start? Anyway, I'm talking about when we start.
Melinda's-
So East Coast was 5 o'clock or something, or 4 o'clock.
Yes.
It was 5 o'clock.
It was 5 o'clock. Okay, because you two are on the east and Theresa's on the central.
Central.
Thank you so much. Right, central.
Yeah. So 2 Eastern and 1 Central. Now, we would like to mention Tuesday, Janet.
Well, that's
Or
something
Saturday.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not sure I can come
I'm
every
doing
Saturday. Wait,
Yeah, Deborah, you're
I
welcome
may.
to come Saturday. So is Melinda.
Yeah.
We're
Mhm.
going to do Saturday, and then I'm going to do Sunday for spirituality, metaphysics and spirituality on Sunday. And
What time?
Same time. We 4 to
6
6
o'clock?
or 4 to 5.
Okay.
Only an hour. So I
4 to
guess it'll
6
be
on
5
Eastern.
to 6.
Is that Central or Eastern?
Well, I don't know. For me, that would be 5 me, 6 for Melinda, 12 or 1 for you, right?
Right.
Because you're
okay.
5. Are you 5
I
hours?
think
We'll get this information out, and I'll teach you how to build your show so it can be advertising for the next week. I'm going to end the broadcast, and we can keep talking. Okay. Thank you very much
Okay.
for joining us. I did outro music, but I'm just going to end the broadcast, and then we can keep talking. Okay.
see you guys next time.
Oh, Theresa left. I would say we could keep talking. Okay.